If you are excited for the Khabib vs Gaethje fight, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button. Welcome back everybody to Keenan KTV. In today's video, let's talk about the upcoming Khabib Nurmagomedov vs Justin Gaethje fight, but mainly in this episode, focus on the 5 reasons why Khabib Nurmagomedov could defeat Justin Gaethje. I will be making a similar video where I talk about the 5 reasons why Justin Gaethje could defeat Khabib, so be sure to subscribe to my channel with the bell notifications turned on. With that being said, let's jump right into this video. The first reason as to why Khabib could be defeating Justin Gaethje comes down to his mobility. In the lightweight division, we rarely see fighters credit Khabib Nurmagomedov for anything other than his wrestling ability. Looking at Khabib Nurmagomedov, however, we have to really credit the man's abilities in every single aspect of mixed martial arts. And when it comes to his mobility, his footwork, personally, that is an area that is very underrated, and usually when fighters go up against Khabib, that becomes the biggest problem for them to deal with, because we definitely know that when it comes to the wrestling department, as soon as Khabib can lock his hands behind your back, he will pretty much take you down. He is very strong like that. When Khabib is not doing that, however, what is the man really doing? I will tell you guys this much. He is not letting himself be a stationary target to be able to get hit by the opponent. He's always moving, he's always mobile, he's always circling away from the power hand of the opponent, and he always makes sure that he will not be getting overwhelmed or pressured up against the fence. His lateral movements, along with his ability to feint his wrestling, makes up for a very tight defense not a lot of fighters could crack. And when it comes to Justin Gaethje, he likes to have his opponents in front of him to where he can get in on them and then start throwing big combination punches. But if Khabib is not in front of him, will he even get off his combinations and start doing his thing? Most likely, no. So with that said, the footwork aspect of Khabib's game is very underrated, and I believe personally he is one of the quickest fighters to move around inside the octagon. He's very balanced, very methodical, and very smart. Looking over to the second reason, speed. As I touched on, the speed in terms of footwork, his speed in terms of hand speed is very exceptionally good. Khabib is very quick when he's shooting out his attacks. When it comes to his boxing, he is predominantly a puncher. You will rarely see Khabib Nurmagomedov throw a kick. So if you take a deeper look into his boxing, you will see that every single strike comes out with a snap. Never is there a shot that Khabib throws that is slow, sluggish, or looping. And because of this attribute in his striking, pairing that up with his footwork and his mobility, he becomes a very difficult target to get down. That is what, for example, Conor McGregor had a hard time dealing with when he was fighting Khabib. He was moving too much, he couldn't find the range, Khabib would never settle, and even when Conor McGregor tried to counter him, he just happened to be quicker in terms of hand speed. Now, why is that really? When you take a look at Conor McGregor's reach, he has a 74-inch reach. Compare that to Khabib's 70-inch reach, you have to assume that the fighter with the shorter arms will be able to swing his arms a little bit quicker. Now against Justin Gaethje, they have the same reach measurements. So in terms of that range advantage, Justin Gaethje won't have that the same way Conor McGregor did. So for Khabib to have the advantage in footwork, hand speed, and the fact that they have the same reach, the range becomes a less of a big problem for Khabib Nurmagomedov to deal with. So when he's moving around, and then as soon as he pops in with a 1-2 and then backs back out, you have to be really expecting Khabib Nurmagomedov to be the first fighter to get in and the first fighter to get out. Now, looking over to the third reason is this: punch power. A lot of people seem to be overlooking Khabib Nurmagomedov, but he is literally the only guy that was able to knock down Conor McGregor. That achievement in itself is something that is pretty ridiculous for the fighter that Khabib Nurmagomedov is, and it just speaks volume of how underrated his striking is. Like I said, his ability to swing his arms quickly and with such explosion, it doesn't really come as a surprise that he can really catch these guys right on the button before they even know it, and usually the punch that you don't see coming will be the one that will shut your lights off. So against Justin Gaethje, who in comparison to him is slower in terms of footwork, slower in terms of hand speed, will not only be having troubles catching him, but how will he be able to deal with the power of Khabib Nurmagomedov? A lot of people will talk about the power of Justin Gaethje. Sure, that is a real threat, but we can't look away from Khabib Nurmagomedov's punching power. So with that combined, in the stand-up department, Khabib Nurmagomedov is far from a helpless duck. Matter of fact, he will be giving Justin Gaethje a lot of troubles in his own right. So with that covered, let's now move over to the fourth reason, and that is intimidation. When it comes to Khabib Nurmagomedov, the aura that he carries into the octagon is not only of a true champion, but of a freak of nature and a dominant force that a lot of people respect. A fighter like Justin Gaethje respects a fighter like Khabib Nurmagomedov. And when you're fighting Khabib, in my personal opinion, having too much respect for the guy will only hurt your abilities to be enforcing your own dominance in that match. Let's take Dustin Poirier as an example. When Dustin and Khabib fought, they had a lot of respect for each other. But as soon as the bell rang, you saw that Dustin Poirier was kind of trying to ease into the fight. And that is exactly not something that you would want to do against a big threat like Khabib. You want to come forward and get the job done as soon as possible, because the more time you give Khabib, the more chances he will create for himself to get the fight where he wants it to be. So when it comes to Justin Gaethje, I believe that respect is also there, but I am not immediately seeing how Justin Gaethje can implement his own dominance against Khabib Nurmagomedov, because I believe if Justin Gaethje wants to have a lot of success against Khabib, he has to be the fighter that leads the dance. He has to make Khabib react to him and not be reacting to Khabib, because as soon as you give Khabib the offense, then it becomes an uphill battle for you. So in my opinion right now, when it comes to Justin Gaethje, I don't think that he will be going in there with that mentality to a certain extent. I believe that he will try and ease into the fight as well, and because of that, I believe that he will be giving a lot of room for Khabib to move around and do his thing. And because of that, he will be reacting to Khabib. And the more that he starts to react, the more that he will think about the wrestling threat. And the more that he thinks about the wrestling threat, the more his mind is getting taken away from the striking, and the more chances Khabib has to hurt Justin Gaethje himself in the striking department. Because a lot of people focus on the wrestling, and they kind of end up in this paralysis by analysis mode where they just are frozen up and waiting to be taken down. Which leads into the final reason, is obviously his wrestling. The most dominant wrestler that I have seen in the sport of mixed martial arts. Khabib Nurmagomedov really sets himself apart from the competition by, I believe, 3 different levels. The amount of skill this man has is just unbelievable, and the fact that he's going to be able to have the footwork advantage, the hand speed advantage, and decent power along with the intimidation factor, this will all have to lead into the fact that at some point in the fight, Justin Gaethje will be just analyzing and probably not doing enough work, because Justin Gaethje, the best measurement stick that he has for the long range is a kick. And when it comes to a kick, you have to understand the risks that you take against a wrestler. When it comes to Khabib, even though he doesn't shoot for many double legs, catching a kick and driving you up against the fence is a real possibility. And even if he didn't decide to catch the leg, if he can swarm the leg kick, he will be able to push Justin Gaethje back up against the fence, and as soon as the first shoot-in happens against the fence, Khabib Nurmagomedov will already set up a system to where he can take you down and make you sit up against the fence, or just lay down on your side where you can control your wrist. At that point, you're actually just fighting 2 different uphill battles, because you're not going to be getting any offense off, and the best defense that you could have is probably try and stand back up. But when you stand back up, you're still in a position where Khabib is controlling you. And in terms of physical power, sure, Justin Gaethje is very strong. He even has a great wrestling pedigree of his own. He will probably be a very hard fighter to take down compared to the other people that he's fighting, but a takedown is inevitable. And when that happens, Khabib is pretty much more so focused on draining your energy than actually hurting you or immediately trying to finish you, because the more he forces the finish, the less likely it will come to him. But the less he forces the finish and focuses more on draining the energy, the more openings will present themselves. But with all of this said, this was only the 5 reasons why Khabib Nurmagomedov could defeat Justin Gaethje. As I said, I will also be making a video where I talk about Justin Gaethje's 5 reasons, so be sure to be subscribed with the bell notifications turned on, because in the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. For now, I've been Keenan from Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.